Imagine crumbling hallways echoing with phantom cries, rusty gurneys where untold suffering once lay, and shadows that seem to move on their own. What if the most terrifying stories aren't just urban legends, but chilling truths left behind in forgotten places? We're venturing into the abandoned hospitals where history's dark secrets still linger. These colossal structures, now monuments to decay, were once beacons of hope. Look at them in their prime, bustling with staff, filled with patients who came seeking cures. But beneath the polished floors and sterile white walls, a different story was unfolding. What horrors did these walls witness? What stories are trapped within the peeling paint and shattered glass? Today, we seek the answers. Our journey begins where many journeys ended. An operating theater, frozen in time. The overhead lamp, coated in a thick layer of dust, once illuminated scenes of medical desperation. Surgical tools, now rusted and forgotten, lie scattered as if dropped in a hurry. It was in rooms like this that life-saving procedures were attempted, but also where experimental techniques, now considered barbaric, were practiced. Each stain on the floor, each scratch on the metal tables, is a testament to the pain and fear that saturated the very air. Every broken window feels like a scream, a silent, final cry into the void. Let's move deeper into the psychiatric wing. Places like this are magnets for urban legends, tales of restless spirits and unexplained phenomena. Explorers and ghost hunters often report hearing disembodied voices, seeing shadowy figures darting down corridors, or feeling an overwhelming sense of despair. One common story speaks of a nurse who, unable to bear the suffering she witnessed, still makes her rounds, her phantom footsteps echoing in the dead of night. Is it just the wind whistling through broken panes, or something more? The line between imagination and reality blurs in a place so heavily saturated with human misery. The air is thick, heavy with the weight of 1,000 forgotten sorrows. But the true horror of these institutions isn't just about ghosts. It's about the very real, very human tragedies that unfolded here. Consider the story of Rosemary Kennedy, whose life was irrevocably altered by a primitive lobotomy, or the countless unnamed patients, diagnosed with hysteria or melancholia, who are subjected to brutal treatments like ice baths and electroshock therapy without proper consent or understanding. The stigma surrounding mental health in the 20th century turned these hospitals into dumping grounds for society as though unwanted. The unseen scars they left on their patients are far more terrifying than any ghost story. The true haunting is the memory of injustice, the echo of lives that were dismissed, damaged, and forgotten long before the buildings themselves were abandoned. As we step into the children's ward, the atmosphere shifts. Faded cartoon murals peel from the walls, and small, rusted cribs stand in silent rows. It's a place that should have been filled with hope and healing, but often witnessed immense sadness. Legends speak of the laughter of children echoing through these empty rooms, or the faint sound of a rocking horse creaking back and forth on its own. These aren't malicious spirits, they say, but the lingering energy of young souls who spend their final days within these walls. Their innocence, a stark, heartbreaking contrast to the building's decay. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, there's an undeniable sorrow here, a profound sense of loss for lives that barely had a chance to begin. Now, we descend into the morgue. This is the final stop for so many. The cold, stainless steel slabs stand empty, waiting for occupants who will never arrive. The air is frigid, carrying a metallic scent that time has failed to erase. You can almost feel the presence of the morticians who worked here, performing their solemn duties, and the quiet dignity or perhaps terror of those who lay upon these tables. Stories from former staff tell of inexplicable noises after dark, of drawers sliding open on their own. A final, chilling farewell from the departed. It's a stark reminder that for every story of recovery upstairs, there was a final, silent chapter written down here, in the cold, quiet, dark. As the sun sets, casting long, distorted shadows through the decaying halls, the hospital takes on a new, more sinister life. The building groans, settling into the night. Is it just the structure aging, or is it awakening? The history of these places is not just written in medical records and architectural blueprints. It's etched into the very fabric of the building, a legacy of pain, fear, and human struggle. They stand as silent witnesses to a chapter of medical history we might prefer to forget. But we shouldn't forget. These abandoned hospitals are more than just creepy locations for a thrill. They are historical markers. Reminders of how far we've come in our understanding of medicine and mental health, and how far we still have to go. They force us to confront the uncomfortable truths of our past. The quiet dread we feel is not just fear of the unknown, but the weight of empathy for the thousands of souls who pass through these doors. Their stories, whispered by the wind, deserve to be heard. Thank you for joining us on this unsettling journey. The world is full of silent witnesses to history, waiting for their stories to be told. What other forgotten places should we explore? Let me know in the comments. If you found this journey as fascinating as I did, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more explorations into the shadows. Stay curious and stay safe. Imagine waking up to a world subtly, terrifyingly altered. What if the most profound changes happen not in broad daylight, but under the shroud of midnight? We're about to delve into a transformation so unsettling, its echoes still ripple through the present, leaving a pervasive sense of dread you can almost taste. It started on a Tuesday, or maybe a Wednesday. The days before have become a blur, bleached of detail by what came after. The night itself was unremarkable. A crescent moon hung in the inky sky, and the usual city sounds, a distant siren, the hum of a late-night boussoir. My only companions. I remember falling asleep with my window cracked open, the cool air a gentle promise of rest. But somewhere in those silent, sleeping hours, a switch was flipped. A silent catalyst ignited a change that would unravel my reality. I can't pinpoint the exact moment. There was no thunderclap, no blinding light. It was quieter, more insidious. Perhaps it was a flicker in the quality of the darkness, a subtle shift in the pressure of the air. It felt like the world holding its breath, waiting. Looking back, I can identify the tiny tremors before the earthquake. The way the shadow of the ficus tree in my room seemed to lengthen and twist into unfamiliar shapes. The way a floorboard creaked upstairs when I lived alone. These were the whispers before the scream, the nearly imperceptible signs that the world I knew was about to cross a point of no return. The moment was like a drop of ink in a glass of water, unseen at first, but its purpose was to stain everything, irreversibly. When I woke, the sun was streaming through my window, just as it always did. But something was off. The change wasn't physical, not in the way you might expect. My reflection was the same. The furniture hadn't moved. It was a change in the very fabric of existence. A psychological shift that felt like a low-frequency hum vibrating just beneath my skin. The silence in the apartment was different. It wasn't empty anymore. It was watching. The air was thick, heavy with an unspoken event. I walked through my apartment, touching familiar objects. The worn cover of a book, the cold ceramic of a coffee mug, and they felt alien, like props on a movie set designed to look like my life. The transformation hadn't been an event of sound and fury. It had been one of utter, deafening silence, and in its wake, it left a stillness that was more terrifying than any scream. The world looked the same, but it felt hollowed out, a perfect replica with the soul violently scooped out. That first morning, the dread was a cold, not in my stomach. It was the feeling you get when you realize you've left the front door unlocked, but magnified 1,000 times. The ordinary routines of my day became treacherous. Making coffee, the machine's gurgle sounded menacing. The news anchor on the TV spoke with a voice that seemed to have an undercurrent of panic only I could hear. I saw my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, watering her petunias. She waved, her smile as bright as ever, but her eyes, they seemed vacant, like she was performing a role she'd long since forgotten the lines to. These were the disturbing anomalies. The cracks in the facade. The bus was 3 minutes early. A flock of pigeons scattered in perfect, unnatural synchronicity. Nothing was overtly wrong, yet everything was a violation of the quiet, predictable logic I'd always relied upon. It was as if I was the only one who had been awake for the midnight performance. And now I was the only one who could see the stagehands dismantling the set while the play continued around me. Weeks turned into months, and the unease never faded. It seeped into everything, a permanent filter over my perception. The dread became my shadow, a constant companion in the quiet moments. It was there in the long hallways at work, in the reflection on a darkened subway window, in the brief, unsettling silence. When a conversation lulls, this is the psychological toll. I became jumpy, paranoid. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind, felt like a message from that night. A reminder of the change. I started to feel alienated, disconnected from the people around me who bustled through their lives with a normalcy that felt staged, even offensive. They hadn't felt the shift. They hadn't seen the silent, midnight metamorphosis. They were still living in the world from before. My mind became a prison of what-ifs. What if I had stayed awake that night? What if I had seen it? What would I have seen, and why? Why did it happen? Was it something cosmic, something I did? Or was I simply losing my mind? This obsessive spiral became my new reality. I traced the events of that day, that night, over and over, searching for a clue, a forgotten detail that would unlock the mystery. But there was nothing, only the before, and the lingering, dreadful after. The lack of answers was a unique kind of torture, a constant, unresolved chord humming in the background of my life. I tried to cope. At first, I tried to rationalize it, blaming it on stress or a lack of sleep. I saw a therapist who spoke about anxiety and dissociation, but their words felt like trying to explain color to someone born blind. They couldn't grasp the fundamental wrongness I was describing. Then I tried to ignore it, drowning the unease in work, in noise, in anything that could distract me from the oppressive silence that waited just beneath the surface. I searched online forums in the dead of night, typing in frantic, disjointed phrases. Reality feels different. World changed overnight. Lingering dread. I found others, scattered whispers in the digital dark. People describing a similar, nameless shift. But there were no answers. Only more questions. More shared paranoia that offered a strange, cold comfort. The search for a source, for meaning, became a futile obsession. Now, I live with the echo. Some days are better than others. Some days, I can almost forget. I can laugh with a friend, enjoy a meal, and for a fleeting moment, the world feels solid again. But the feeling always returns. It's in the way a shadow falls just a little too long in the afternoon sun, in the way a stranger's gaze lingers a second too long. I've stopped fighting it. I've accepted that the world I knew is gone, replaced by this eerie, uncanny replica. I am a ghost in my own life, haunted not by a spirit, but by the memory of a reality that no longer exists. The transformation of that one night echoes forward, a permanent reverb in the symphony of my existence. What does the future hold? I don't know. I only know that I will forever be listening for the next silent midnight change, wondering if I'm the only one who will hear it. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever felt something similar, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unsettling tales from the quiet corners of the world. Stay safe, and maybe keep a light on tonight.